I can only say that the result surprised even me. Yes, and then we will get started right away. What is Bitcoin anyway? It is a layer 1 blockchain with proof of work. Ultimately, it is seen as digital gold, especially against inflation. Founded in 2008, ultimately as a response to the financial crisis at that time. And then we come directly back to my 10x formula. I highly recommend this video where I explain the 10x formula in detail and my 20 metrics. Then we will dive directly into the analysis, starting with the market capitalization. It stands at $1.72 trillion. That is already extremely high. Therefore, I would say that the potential is somewhat limited, at least in this bull run. In the long term, I see Bitcoin at over $1 million, therefore a rating of only 3 out of 10 for this bull run. Then, what about the circulating supply? 94%, that is extremely good, meaning there is essentially no risk of inflation, therefore 10 out of 10. And the next point, the roadmap. How is it? Well, Bitcoin doesn't have a classic roadmap in that sense, but it does have proposals that can ultimately be voted on. But it doesn't have a classic roadmap, therefore 6 out of 10. Then the next point, how is the team? Well, in that sense, Bitcoin doesn't have a direct team. Rather, it is a decentralized team, a community of global developers who make it open source. Therefore, 7 out of 10. Then the next point, what narratives does Bitcoin have? Well, as digital gold, of course, and as a store of value, so very relevant, therefore 9 out of 10. And then the next point, what problem does Bitcoin solve? Well, it is the decentralized alternative to fiat currencies and ultimately to the financial system. It is against inflation because it is ultimately the rarest, yes, I would say the rarest digital asset in the world. Digital gold, extremely important, extremely relevant, 10 out of 10. And then the next point, how is the economy? Well, it is ultimately fixed at 21 million bitcoins. It always has, I would say, halving periods, which ultimately reduces the main supply. This is extremely positive. As a result, it becomes, let's say, increasingly rare to obtain, and thus actually more valuable in the long run. Therefore, 9 out of 10. And then the next point, what about the investors? Well, there are already many institutional investors, including BlackRock, and then there is the ETF. This means that more and more can really invest in Bitcoin through the ETF, including pension funds and so on. So this is extremely positive, 8 out of 10. And then the next chapter. Well, it is such that ultimately the capital mainly comes in through the community in that sense. Bitcoin is not a company in that sense and therefore does not have capital in the traditional sense. It is the entire community, but also, as mentioned, institutional investors. And so on, therefore, 7 out of 10. And then the next point, what does such marketing look like? Well, Bitcoin does not have its own marketing department because it is decentralized, but ultimately it is organic growth through the community and the media. The higher the price rises, the more Bitcoin naturally comes into the media. 8 out of 10. Stop. Before I continue, I must tell you something. I discovered an altcoin that ultimately has massive potential. It still has a relatively low market cap, which for us investors means that it carries more risk, but of course also much more potential. I will upload this altcoin next weekend, the entire analysis based on my 20 metrics with my 10x formula. And if you don't want to miss that, then subscribe to my channel and don't forget to activate the bell, so you really don't miss any insights. And now let's continue. So, is Bitcoin easy to understand? And yes, it is easy to understand. Decentralized, digital currency, easy to understand, digital gold, 9 out of 10. And then the next point, what is the long-term vision? As ultimately a store of value, of course, and long-term as a global reserve currency. More and more countries, I would say, are also supported by Bitcoin, such as America, therefore 9 out of 10. Then the next point is that it is deflationary. It has a maximum supply. And yes, it has both. It has a maximum supply of 21 million bitcoins. And through the halving cycles, it is also deflationary. Yes, perfect, 10 out of 10. Then the next point. How does the fully diluted market capitalization compare to the market capitalization? Well, ultimately, it is quite close to both. Therefore, it is extremely positive. This ultimately means that there are no more nasty surprises. 10 out of 10. And then, how is the volume through market capitalization? So, how is the liquidity? It stands at 0.094. This is significantly above the reference value. So extremely liquid, extremely positive, 10 out of 10. And then, how is the token distribution? Well, it is decentralized, so there are quite few risks for a massive selling pressure, therefore 9 out of 10. And the next point are the top coin holders, as few as possible. And yes, there is only a moderate concentration of those who hold a really large amount of Bitcoin, all still within absolute limits, therefore 7 out of 10. And then the next point, what is the utility of Bitcoin? Well, on one hand, for purchasing, for payment so to speak, then as a store of value, and of course increasingly in everyday life for purchasing phone-on products. So, it has extremely many advantages and extremely many uses, 10 out of 10. And the next point, the community. How is it? Well, it has an extremely large community and I would say many developers who really support the coin and Bitcoin. In the end, extremely positive, 10 out of 10. And then, what is the current situation? Well, in the bear market, Bitcoin was quite resilient. Now, as the bull market really starts, on one hand we have America, which is really favorable towards Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. The Bitcoin ETF is here. And generally, institutional investors are increasingly investing in Bitcoin, and additionally, retail investors are coming back into the market, which is extremely positive, therefore 9 out of 10. And then we come directly to the result, 94.7%, an extremely good result. Bitcoin has an extremely good economy and ultimately has an extremely good foundation. The only thing that remains, I would say, in the long term is that the growth potential is enormous. In the short term, it is a bit limited, but it still has its absolute value and still has an extreme growth ratio to the market capitalization. Yes, and then we come directly to the forecast. So, again at the top, what is in fact the worst case, neutral in quotation marks, normal case, and the optimistic case, meaning in the worst case from the perspective of artificial intelligence as well, $126,000, and in the best case, $252,000. So there is still extreme potential. From now on, a 2.5 to 5x, hence a great result. It is a layer 1 blockchain with proof of stake, also referred to as a world computer, because a vast number of dApps are built on it, and the Web3 ecosystem was already founded in 2014. So it is very established in the market and also has a high altcoin dominance. Now let's move on to my 10x formula. I highly recommend this video above, where I present the 10x formula and 20 metrics in detail. It is very important that you understand this video here. And then we get started right away. Market capitalization 393 billion. That is of course already a high, I would say, market cap. As a result, its growth is relatively limited compared to altcoins, with low market production. Therefore only 4 out of 10. Then the next point, the circulating supply. Well, 100% are ultimately already in circulation. That is positive, 10 out of 10. Then the next point, what about the roadmap? Well, Ethereum has a roadmap, especially regarding Ethereum 2.0 and further scalability, speed. So, of course, they also want to move more into the area of Solana, therefore 8 out of 10. Then the next point, what about the team? Well, ultimately founded by Vitalik Buterin, I think everyone or many of you know him. Otherwise, it has a strong developer community. It is also ultimately based in Switzerland. Very positive overall, 9 out of 10. Then the next point, what narratives does Ethereum have? Well, ultimately, yes, Player 1, and especially smart context, DeFi, so, very positive overall. It is needed. 9 out of 10. Then the next point, what problem does Ethereum solve? Well, ultimately, that there is a decentralized platform for smart contracts and apps. Therefore, 10 out of 10, extremely important. Then the next, tokenomics. Well, with 2.0, that is Ethereum 2.0, staking was ultimately introduced and it has a deflationary mechanism, which is very positive because it counteracts inflation, so 9 out of 10. Then the next point, what about the investors? Well, many investors are investing in Ethereum and believe in it. Ethereum has its own ETF because it is the only altcoin that has one. Therefore, extremely positive, 8 out of 10. And the next point, what about the capital? Well, the Ethereum Foundation has a robust capital as a result, so 8 out of 10. Then marketing, well, on one hand, it is naturally growing because more and more developers are building on Ethereum. This naturally attracts more people, and as a result, the ecosystem expands. 8 out of 10. Stop. I absolutely have to tell you something important. I found an altcoin that ultimately has an extremely low market cap, which is extremely important for us investors because it has extremely high potential. It also has solid tokenomics. I must say, it really surprised me. And I also hold the coin in my personal portfolio, so it's very relevant. I will have analyzed it in detail and will ultimately publish it next weekend with my complete analysis of the 20 metrics, my price forecast, and my 10x formula. If you don't want to miss it, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to activate the bell so that you ultimately don't miss any insights in the future. So, let's go, it continues. And the next point, is the idea simple? Well, the idea is indeed simple. Especially Ethereum is quite well known, for sure, especially in the area of simply strong contacts and decentralized in quotation marks world computer 8 out of 10. And the next point, what is the long-term vision? Well, it ultimately wants to be the decentralized world computer and continuously expand, allow more and more users and ultimately keep growing. Therefore, 9 out of 10. The next point, it is deflationary. Does it have a maximum supply? No, it does not have a maximum supply, but it is now deflationary. Therefore, that is very positive, 9 out of 10. And the next point, how does the fully diluted market capitalization look? Well, it is already close to the market cap, which is very positive, therefore 10 out of 10. The next point, how does the liquidity look? Well, the ratio is 0.056, which indicates high liquidity. You can sell your Ethereum because there is enough liquidity available. This is extremely important, shows extreme interest in Ethereum, 10 out of 10. The next point, how is the token distribution or lockup periods, or AE? Well, it is decentralized with staking and ultimately has, let's say, no major. Then the next point, how does the token distribution look? Well, it is decentralized, has staking, and ultimately I would say there is no risk of extremely many coins coming onto the market. Therefore, 9 out of 10. The next point, are the top coin holders as low as possible? Well, there is a moderate concentration of extreme holders, I would say. So therefore 7 out of 10. And the next point, what use case does Ethereum have? Well, of course DeFi, then NFTs, but also DAOs and staking, so an extremely important, I would say, foundation, has extreme utility for us as investors, 10 out of 10. Then the next point, how is the community? Well, it has one of the largest communities because it has been on the market for a long time, extremely positive, and therefore 10 out of 10. What about the current market situation? Well, Ethereum still dominates the layer 1 blockchain market, and therefore it has an ETF, which is very important. There will be inflows, and generally an altcoin season will come again. Therefore I am optimistic, 9 out of 10. And the result? 95.8. Extremely good result, solid tokenomics. The ETF, strong investors, the strong community, a high dominance in the market, been around for a long time. In my opinion, Ethereum is still in second place, and rightly so. And I also don't believe that will change in the future. Especially when the altcoin season starts, Ethereum will also soar again. Let's move on to the forecast. As always, either in the bearish case, then in the neutral case, or in the optimistic case. So in the bearish case, $16,620, or in the optimistic case, 33,240. That would be a 5 to 10x from now, so extreme potential. Yes, now that you know what potential Ethereum still has, I will introduce you to an altcoin up here that I have analyzed in detail, which has just as much potential, if not more, and actually surprised me because it has been on the market for a long time but can perform extremely positively. I analyzed it in detail based on my 20 metrics. If you like this video, please give it a like. Let me know in the comments what other altcoin analyses you would like to see, and thank you for watching. Until the next video, bye.